Napoleon Bonaparte, a name that echoes through history. A man who seemed invincible, commanding armies with unmatched genius, conquering most of Europe. But then, Waterloo. The moment that ended his reign. The moment history remembers as the fall of the greatest military strategist of all time. But what if I told you the real reason Napoleon lost Waterloo isn't what you've been taught? What if it wasn't a matter of strategy, skill, or even the numbers? What if something far more unexpected, something so fundamental, was the reason Napoleon couldn't claim victory? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could change everything you thought you knew about one of history's most famous defeats. The Battle of Waterloo, June 18, 1815, Napoleon faced the combined forces of the British and Prussians. On paper, he should have won. He had the experience, the strategy, and the sheer power of his imperial army. Yet, against all odds, he was defeated. But there's a truth hiding beneath the surface of that infamous battle, and it's not just about a failed strategy or poor planning. It's something more human, more personal. The real reason Napoleon lost Waterloo wasn't the battlefield, it was his health. Yes, you heard that right. Napoleon was suffering from serious physical ailments during that battle, and it affected him in ways most people don't realize. Napoleon, in the weeks leading up to Waterloo, was not the same man who had led his army through countless victories. Reports from his doctors and soldiers reveal a man who was physically declining. His health was deteriorating at a rapid pace. But what caused it? Some say he was battling chronic stomach issues, possibly an ulcer, or even a form of gastric cancer. Others suggest he was suffering from the effects of piles, painful and debilitating, particularly in the midst of a battle. Napoleon had difficulty sitting on horseback during crucial moments, a disadvantage that hampered his leadership. But the biggest blow to his health? The constant stress and strain of years of war. Napoleon wasn't the energetic, charismatic leader who had once swept across Europe. He was ill, and it became painfully obvious during the battle. In fact, some of his own officers and soldiers claimed that Napoleon appeared unwell. His eyes were sunken, his face pale, and his movements sluggish. He looked like a man who had been drained of his vitality. The once commanding presence of Napoleon was now overshadowed by physical weakness. This is where his health became a tactical disadvantage. On that fateful day, his ability to think clearly, make quick decisions, and stay in control of the battlefield was hindered. A man who was once a step ahead of everyone now struggled to keep up. His physical condition affected his leadership ability. The mind of Napoleon was still sharp, but the body, it was failing him. Then there was the weather. You've heard of the infamous muddy battlefield of Waterloo. That rain-soaked terrain became a nightmare for Napoleon's army. The battlefield became so waterlogged that it slowed down Napoleon's artillery, his cavalry, everything. His forces couldn't maneuver as they had in the past. His artillery, a crucial part of his strategy, was stuck in the mud, rendering it less effective and giving his enemies the upper hand. The weather was the great equalizer on the battlefield. It forced Napoleon to fight a war on his enemies' terms instead of his own. But the final blow came from an unexpected source. It wasn't just the British, led by the indomitable Duke of Wellington, who defeated Napoleon that day. It was the Prussians. Napoleon had long underestimated the Prussian forces, and on the day of the battle, their timely arrival turned the tide in favor of the Allies. Led by Gebhard Leberecht von Blücher, the Prussians managed to regroup and reinforce Wellington's forces in the critical moments of the battle. But by then, Napoleon's command was already weakened. Napoleon's forces were slowly overwhelmed. His troops, out of position and bogged down by the mud, couldn't fend off the combined British and Prussian assault. So, was it simply that Napoleon's forces were outnumbered, that his strategy failed, or was it something deeper, something more personal? Napoleon's health had already been in decline, and on the day of Waterloo that decline became his undoing. It wasn't just the battle he lost, it was his body. The man who had once been invincible, who had controlled Europe with precision and brilliance, found himself unable to keep pace. Health was the silent enemy that defeated him in the end. So, the next time you hear about Waterloo, remember this: Napoleon's defeat wasn't just a result of military mistakes. It was the inevitable collapse of a man who had been stretched too thin for too long. The toll of years of war, personal strain, and failing health had finally caught up with him. He was human after all, and like all humans, even the greatest must eventually face their limitations. What do you think? Was Napoleon's health the real reason for his downfall? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this perspective eye-opening, don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights into the hidden truths of history.